It's Mari. I'm back again today here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm starting my project today with the Lazy Daisy Pierced A2 cover plate. You can see that I have used that cover plate to create some texture on this piece of white cardstock that I have cut down here for my card front today. I'm going to do a little bit of mixed media to help create a little bit of interest on my textured background here. I'm using a little bit of Speckled Egg Distress Oxide Spray from Ranger, and I've sprayed that onto my glass mat. I'm going to dilute it a little bit with my Distress sprayer and some water. And then I'm just going to take my card panel and I'm going to just dip it into that product. Now this is Ranger heavy stock paper that I'm working on, so it's a little bit heavier than just regular cardstock. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water. I'm going to use a little bit of packaging to get this spray to move around a little bit. And in this way, I'm just adding a little bit of really organic kind of color in sort of like a watercolor medium to the background of my paper. And I love working with the Distress products for doing things like this with my projects. I think it's just a lot of fun, and you can just create some really cool backgrounds for your card fronts. Now, you don't have to worry about your paper warping. I'll show you how to fix that later in the video. And I just really had so much fun with this part of the process. I'm picking up a little bit of that medium again and just letting it drip off of my plastic. And again, that's just a little piece of packaging, and I love keeping packaging for this exact type of technique. I'm going to use my heat tool now just to dry that a bit, and once that's dry, I'm going to also add some splatters with my fan brush. So I'm just dipping my fan brush into that medium and splattering it onto my project. Again, I'll water this down. I really wanted some nice fine splatter on here that is a nice complement and contrast to those bigger drops. Now I'm also going to pick up a larger watercolor brush and add some bigger drips and drops just by really saturating the bristles of the brush and then just squeezing out the medium onto my project. Now I've dried that again with my heat tool, and now I'm taking some Dina Wakley gloss spray in white and I'm just splattering that on using my splat box. You could totally use any type of white medium that you have. You could use gesso or white paint, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to use some of the Bee Bliss paper pad. I love this paper pad. It is absolutely gorgeous, and I love how this paper here just matches up so nicely with the speckled egg, and you can see now that that's all dry how pretty that looks. I'm going to take a 1 inch, a 1.5 inch, and a 2-inch circle punch, and I'm going to cut out some circles from that pattern paper. And I'm going to use those circles to create a bunch of texture on the front of my project. So I'm really going for texture here today. That cover plate added those really fun daisy texture in the background of my card front, and I'm also going to use these circles to create even more texture. Of course, that mixed media and those splatters added texture as well, so gonna get lots of texture in on this project. So I'm just going to finish punching out these circles with my punches, and I'm also punching the circles from some vellum. So I'll punch the same number and the same size of circles from some vellum paper as well. And then I'm going to layer these pieces together with a little bit of adhesive. So I'm just going to take my tape runner here and glue or adhere a vellum piece onto the back or the side of the paper that's not going to be showing. And I'll just show you here in a bit how this is going to add some really fun dimension and texture to the project. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that to the back. And now you can just see I took those to my sewing machine and I just added some white stitching to the centers of each one of those circles. So now I can separate the vellum from the paper and just pinch those up a little bit to create a little bit more dimension. And now we've got these really cool dimensional circles to add to our card front for even more texture. And I don't end up using this little 4th circle. I wasn't sure if I needed it or not, but I just thought I would create an extra just in case. Now to take the warping out of my paper and to add some dimension, I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of the entire piece here. So this is a really great way to get your paper to flatten out if you do have a little bit of warping from different kinds of wet medium that you might use, whether it's paste or whatever. So it is a really easy way and a fail-safe way to go ahead and get those warps out. So I've got my foam tape on the back of my card front here. I'm going to add a little bit of Honeybee Stamps liquid precision tip glue, and this is going to just allow me the opportunity to wiggle my piece of paper here around a little bit on my card base so that I can get it on there straight, so that foam tape doesn't grab the paper right away. It just gives me a little bit of a chance to move it around and get it centered. So I am working on an A2 size portrait top folding card base here, and you'll just see me here take my card front and add it onto my card base. So I'll just take a second and make sure that I have it in the right spot, and then I'll just really smooth that out. I actually put some paper weights on it for a few minutes just to make sure that it was nice and adhered. And now you can just see how flat that is and ready to go to add the details to the project. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam adhesive to the back of each one of these circles, and that's just going to pop them up even a little bit more. So I'm going to just bounce them down the front of my card here. This one's kind of more or less centered. The next circle is going to go over a little bit to the right, and then the last circle will go over a little bit to the left, and we'll just get a really interesting pattern of circles on the front of our card. So I'm just going to take those backers off of my foam adhesive and place this down and just try to get an idea of where I want that to be on my card front. And you'll just be able to see that mixed media background, the speckled egg just kind of like popping out here and there, as well as those white splatters. You could actually also white splatter over top of the circles once they're adhered if you want some white splatter on those pieces as well. I didn't bother to do that for this particular project, but that would look really nice. You could also add some gold splatters if you want to add a little bit of gold, or whatever you like to add to your projects. So I could have added that little circle there, but I want room for my sentiment. I also really wanted to add a little bit of a floral on here, so you'll see me doing that as well. But this is the Birthday Wishes Stamp and Coordinating Die Set. I just showed you there, I pointed to the sentiment I'm using, wishing you all that is happy. I'm also going to use my Wildflowers Lovely Layer die set here to create a little floral piece. I love how you can use these, individually. You can cut the little blooms off of the stems and create just a little bloom for a project. Just another way that you can use that die set. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam adhesive between these die cut layers from that die set and add just that little bit more dimension to the flower. I could have added a little bit of vellum to this as well if I'd chosen to or wanted to. I'm just taking a tiny little bit of adhesive, and I'm also going to be adding the little die cut detail pieces into the center of this really pretty little floral, and that's just going to add again a little bit of extra texture into the center of that little flower, which I love. And I'm just using a tiny little glue bottle here for these really small little areas, and I'll get that all finished. And now you can just see how pretty that looks in white. And I love the white space on this card. I think it just looks really clean, and I like that look a lot. You see me doing that quite often on my projects, whether it's scrapbooking or card making. I do like some white space on a project for sure. Now I'm going to add some dimensional adhesive on the back here as well, just using my craft pick to help me pick those up off of the adhesive backing there and get those release papers off and adhere this down to my project. Now I did want this kind of down towards the bottom because that's where the sentiment's going to be, so I'm just sort of trying to create a focal point towards the bottom. So I'm going to just pop this down on top of two of those circles down there, and then there's just a really nice logical spot for my sentiment. So I have my sentiment stamped out here in some black ink, and I've die cut that out, of course, with the coordinating die set. That coordinates so beautifully. There's a coordinating die for every one of those sentiments in that set. I love that. And I'm just using my Honeybee Precision tweezers, or my reverse tweezers, to place that on my project. I really love how this looked, but I wanted to add a little bit of bling. So I'm going to take my Aurora Borealis gem stickers, which I love. And I love how there's 3 different sizes of gems on the sheet. I'm going to just add one to the center of my little bloom there, which I think looks really pretty. and I'm going to add, I think, 4 more gems onto my project to finish it off. I hope you enjoyed this card today. I really enjoyed making it for you. I love creating cards with texture. There's so many different ways to achieve that look, and I hope you got some tips and tricks today from my video and my project to help you with that in the future. I did link up in the description box below in the show more or more section below the video. I linked up to all of the different products that I've used from the Honeybee shop today for my project. So if you're interested in shopping for any of these different items that you saw in the video today, you can definitely check those affiliate links in the description box of this video. Here you can just see I'm going to finish up adding that little bit of bling to the bottom of my card. I'll show you a close-up of my card. I'll bring it up to the camera a little bit for you to see, and that's how it all turned out today. So I love it so much, and I hope you did too. Thank you so much, friends, for joining me. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.